His biggest argument in the atheist community is addressing mythicism.
Yep.
Like he's really, really good at pointing out how bad mythicist arguments are. Like we can separate historical Jesus from whether or not I can prove to you guys that he turned water into wine. And so that would be like a secondary kind of issue. But there's people now in the atheist community that I run into who aren't even sure that they exist, let alone Jesus exists. And I think we have to have like some consistent references when we're going to have dialogue.
For what I understand, he may have criticisms against Richard Carrier's argument, which is not my position. Now, I identify as a mythicist because we know that a lot of the mythology that is attached to Jesus actually came from previous godmen, Prometheus, who I mentioned earlier, and a handful of others, Hercules and Krishna and Dionysus. There's a whole bunch of them that contributed to the Jesus legend. Josephus wrote about 19 Jesii, 19 different Jesuses. And in one of them, actually, he wrote about a 20th too, which I think is one of the more significant ones. And I wish Bob Price was still on the show. He was on earlier tonight, but this is coming from Bob Price's argument that if you read Josephus and you compare that to Luke, which were both written at about the same time, you realize that they're both writing about the same account from different perspectives. That Joseph of Arimathea is actually Josephus Bar Matthias. Josephus Bar Matthias, Joseph of Arimathea, Bar Matthias, and so on. So Josephus talks about how he himself had wandered into the killing fields and had discovered 3 people whom he knew that were up on crosses. So he ran to Titus, not Pilate, to beg to have these people brought down. And 2 of them survived and 1 did not. And the way that it's written sounds like Luke is talking about the same occurrence from another person who's watching Joseph of Arimathea Josephus Bar Matthias.
I mean, I can see the parallels. I guess my only thought would be is that with knowing that Luke was written around 70 AD, the source I would use is Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell and some other sources. But I guess you could say that he was writing about...
Are you sure about Luke being written then?
I'm
pretty confident. It was much earlier, much later.
I'm pretty confident in the 70, but I'm open to critique and criticism. So if anybody has any sources or anything, I'm welcome.
I don't know.
And then the other thing,
verdict makes really good fire kindling. But.
And then we have as Bart Ehrman. I took a class on comparative religions, or the history of comparative religions, which had a great Methodist professor with a doctorate in his field who had been to all of these temples and so forth around the world. So he was like the best person to do a comparative religion course, and he based his course on the works of Bart Ehrman. So it's interesting that Bart Ehrman holds that there should be a historic Jesus, and I hold that there are not. And what's else is interesting is that Ehrman's arguments don't really contradict mine. So Ehrman talks about how there's